When one thinks of the name Walt Disney, scary is likely the last adjective that comes to mind. But despite having a reputation for crafting stories that put smiles on the faces of children and adults across the globe, some of the fairy tales and animated classics that Disney has produced over the years have some pretty dark roots. So today we're jumping into the stories and urban legends you may not have known about the family-friendly company with our list of the top 5 Walt Disney stories that will scare you. Or at least will have you feeling slightly disturbed or uneasy. Either or. And at number 5, Pirates of the Caribbean. Let's start off our list with one really unsettling detail that you may not have known about Disneyland. The Pirates of the Caribbean ride is one of the amusement park's most famous attractions. Hell, it's what spawned a whole darn movie franchise. But it's got a pretty sinister secret. Back when it was being built, Disney's Imagineers used real human bones to construct the skeletons that first appeared on the ride when it opened in 1967. All because fake bones looked rather unrealistic. These bones, procured from the UCLA's medical school, were eventually replaced with fake ones, although many people still believe that the damage has already been done, and that the ride is haunted because of it. Also, many people still think that the skull and crossbones in the ride's headboard at the start are real bones. Plus, worth noting that many park visitors over the years have gotten in trouble for scattering the remains of dead loved ones at various park attractions, including Pirates and the Haunted Mansion. Kinda eerie. And at number 4, The Hunchback of Notre Dame. Many of the Disney films we know and love are based on pretty dark stories. The Hunchback of Notre Dame is no different. The original story that the 1996 movie is based on is from a novel by Victor Hugo of the same name. In the book, Frollo orders Quasimodo to kidnap the gypsy Esmeralda out of his obsessive lust for her, and he's generally the catalyst for many of the terrible things that happen in the narrative. Now in the film, Frollo is just as awful, but at least the movie ends on a positive note, with Frollo dying and all of the good guys achieving a happy ending. The ending of Hugo's novel has a very different conclusion than the film. Esmeralda is hanged, and Quasimodo pushes Frollo to his death off of a roof for betraying her after handing her into the authorities. Quasimodo then visits Esmeralda's grave, and ends up starving to death there because he doesn't want to leave, with his body turning to bones and dust, eventually being found years later. So yeah, I can see why Disney opted out of the more morbid ending. Good marketing too. And at number 3, Snow White. The 1937 Snow White film is one of Disney's classics. It was the first full-length cel animated feature film, and the earliest animated feature that Disney had ever made. But the story was anything but new. The tale of Snow White originated from a Brothers Grimm fairy tale, in which the evil queen tries to murder Snow White twice before trying the poison apple trick, and the prince actually takes Snow White away while she's unconscious in a glass coffin. Yeah, creepy. At their wedding, the queen is forced to wear hot iron shoes and dance until she dies. That's totally a memory you want on your big day, right? The queen also wanted to eat Snow's internal organs in order to gain her beauty, a practice that she often participated in, thanks to the huntsman for retrieving innards for her. And fun fact, prior to Disney's Snow White being released, in 1933, a Betty Boop cartoon version of Snow White directed by legend Dave Fleischer came out, and it features a very different take on the tale, one that is very representative of the ideologies of the Roaring Twenties, and has a whole lot of phallic imagery and cocaine metaphors. It's actually pretty great, and the cartoon has been praised as being one of Betty Boop's more feminist positive stories. On the flip side of that, Walt Disney had quite the history of being a misogynist, and also a racist. But that explains why so many of his early animated classics are stories in which women play very passive roles and are ultimately defined by their male heroes, whereas their antagonists, like the Wicked Queen, who are older independent women, were vilified. A little bit of a contextual history lesson there for you guys. And at number 2, River Country. There's a whole lot of tales online about urban explorers venturing out into abandoned Disney theme parks and recollecting what they've found there, which is usually pretty scary. One in particular, from a Reddit user named Dom the Creator 14, decided to explore Disney's River Country, which had opened near Disney's Fort Wilderness Resort and Campground in 1976 in Florida, and was eventually closed in 2001, left to deteriorate. This explorer's friend had heard a story from another employee who worked security that had been sent out to River Country to investigate an intruder, only later to be found crying on one of the lake docks, with what appeared to be a little girl who had slit her wrists. The girl had disappeared shortly afterwards. When the explorer got to the abandoned park, he noticed that the electricity was still on in certain parts of the park. He witnessed several ghosts and spirits as he ventured through it, including one that was a security guard who he claims had blood flowing out of his nose as his eyes rolled back into his head. After the explorer's visit, he did some research and discovered a few things. One ghost, who had appeared to be a soldier, may have been the spirit of a 49-year-old man who was a World War II veteran, who died in the park shortly after it opened. Another object, a wig that had strangely appeared while he was walking through the Haunted Mansion, may have had ties to a Disney park employee who had been shot in the head, and found inside his car that had fallen into a swamp near his house. In the trunk of the car was a broken ghost prop from the Haunted Mansion, with the ghost's hair allegedly being almost identical to the wig that he had found. And finally, in at number 1, Walt's apartment. According to this story, there's a reason why the light is always left on in Walt Disney's former apartment above the fire station on the Main Street section of the park, although it is said to be done in tribute to the now deceased icon. As the story goes, one night an employee went up to the apartment to dust it, and shut off the lights as she was leaving. When she returned to the ground floor, she realized that the lights were still on. Not thinking anything of it, she returned to the apartment and shut the lights off again. But when she came back down to the ground floor again, the lights were back on. So she went upstairs yet again to see what was up, and when she arrived, she swore she heard a voice tell her, "Don't forget, I am still here." This isn't the only place that Walt is said to be haunting in the park. There's a storeroom behind the magic shop on Main Street and a stockroom above the Emporium that are also rumored to be one of his favorite places to haunt. Alright, there we have it guys. How many of these Disney stories and legends did you guys already know? And which ones do you actually believe? Give us a shout in those comments below and let us know. If you dug this video, show some love, hit that like button. And for more creepy tales, make sure you subscribe to our channel. In the meantime though, I've been your host Kelly Pally, and thanks for watching. I'll catch you guys in the next video.